Alright, this is video 1 of how to make your own fishing rod. So I'm just going to go over the parts list, kind of the tools that you'll need, the materials that you will need to make or begin to make your own fishing rod. So I have the blank ordered. It's a 6-foot, 6.5-foot actually ultralight, and I'm making this for a buddy of mine, for actually one of his sons, as a Christmas gift. So this is kind of the first step you're going to take. This is your blank. You ordered your blank, and then these are the parts that you also order to piece together your fishing rod. So what we have first is a 4-inch rear grip. This actually goes, it's a rear inch foregrip. For a young boy, I thought 4-inch would be appropriate. This is actually your reel seat, and you can get these in all different kinds of materials, colors, widths, lengths, anything you need, just on whatever preference you're making your rod for. And inside is an arbor that actually sits on the blank itself, gives it a good, nice, strong connection whenever you put your bond on. This is the actual foregrip. It's a 2-inch foregrip, and then right here is the butt end that goes on to your rear grip. So what happens after you have everything glued on, this is kind of how it's going to look. You're going to have your foregrip, or your rear grip, your reel seat, whether you want it forward locking or rear locking. This is going to be forward locking because the threads run this way. And then your foregrip. So that's how it's going to look once it's on the rod. Oh, actually on your blank first. So that's one thing you're going to need. Next is a grease pencil. These come real handy whenever you're marking your blank for spacing of your guides. When you're doing a dry run of these parts, it really comes in handy. So I suggest to get one of those. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the spine of the rod. Now this is very crucial. Some companies, they don't take the time to actually find the spine on the rod whenever they make these. They just kind of slap the parts on, but we're going to actually find the spine, and it gives it a lot more better action in the feel whenever you're using your rod. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you that. Okay, now what we're going to do now is we're going to find the spine on the actual blank itself, and then we're going to mark it. If you don't have a grease pen, one nice thing you can do is just put a piece of Scotch tape around the actual blank and then mark it with a marker, just to give you a reference of where your spine is. So what you want to do is you want to take your blank, and this is just the manufacturer's sticker. I got to finish taking that off. That's nothing to do with this. But you want to take your blank and you want to hold it about 3/4 to half of the way up the actual shaft of the rod. And then what you're going to do is apply pressure, so you have it bent like this. Just have it bent, and then you're going to roll it. And right there you can see it kind of pop. Pop right there, check it again. Pops, and that's where your spine is going to be on your rod. So it's right here. I'll just mark it with my grease pencil. Just draw a straight line. That's my spine. I'll just verify it again. Pops right there. Pops. Pops. And there's my spine. Now, it's kind of a misnomer. This face up isn't actually the spine of the shaft, it's the belly. You think of it like yourself. I'm marking the belly because I'm going to be bending like this. And since this is a spinning rod, my guides are going to go where I'm marking. They're going to go on the belly of the blank. And so if this was a bait casting rod, the blank or the guides would actually go on the opposite side, because bait cast rods are different than actual spinning rods, blank wise. So we hold it up, pops. There's our this is the actual belly, but we're finding the spine, which is on this end. So once we know where the spine is, we're going to kind of dry fit our parts, mark them with our grease pencil, and then we're also going to use this roller and mark where the guides actually go. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, just to give you a better example of the spine, I put this piece of Scotch tape here. You can see where my mark is with my grease pencil, hopefully, but I put this piece of Scotch tape upright so you can actually see the popping of how it's supposed to work. So I'm holding my rod. I know that where the spine is now. So I'm holding my rod about 3/4 of the way up, and I'm just spinning it. And you can see how it pops right there. That's where you know your spine is. That's where you're going to mark it. I'll show you again. Pops right there. So there's my spine. Okay, now that right now we're going to mark the guide spacing where our guides are going to go. I have in my hand right here, this is actually a guide spacing chart. Now some of these you can get online, some of them the actual manufacturers of the blank will ship it to you, and this tells you, this recommends where your guides should go on your blank. So right now I have my blank lined out right here against my roller, and my first mark is going to be 4.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark my blank at 4.5 inches. Right there. And I usually like to mark them the same area on the rod blank where I mark my spine, because that's where the blanks are going to go, on that belly. Next part is 9 3/4. This is a glossy finish rod, so it's kind of, it wants to go everywhere. 9 3/4, and then it's 15 3/4. Now once again, these are recommendations from the factory. You don't have to be as specific. Some guys actually disregard these and just mark their guides where they feel it's most comfortable for them. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up marking these guides, and then I'll show you how we're going to dry run these foregrips, rear grips, arbor, and all that. Okay, so this is just a dry fit. This will give us an idea whenever we put our rod bond that will secure all these parts to the actual blank. This gives us an idea how far we're going to spread all that glue. So right here I'm going to mark where my rear grip, get it lined up at the very end. You don't have to be exact with this part, so because when you put your glue on, it's going to spread out everywhere, so that you don't have to be too exact. This just gives you a rough estimate. So right here is about where the rear grip is going to end, and my rail seat's going to start. Right here is where the rail seat and the foregrip come together, and then right about here is where the foregrip will end. So this gives us a rough idea of where the parts go whenever we put our glue down, and I'll show you that part coming up next. Alright, we're just going to talk about a couple more tools that you may need. Now this is actually a reaming kit. Now what this does is take the cork and removes the cork so it'll actually fit on the blank. And as you can see, it just fits in the end, and it reams all that cork out to make the inside dimension of your grips, of all your cork, to match the dimension of your rod blank. Now when I first started, I used a rat tail file, and that takes forever. Your hands get tired. You know, you're sitting there reaming out this cork for a good hour at least on each one of the. And if you have long foregrips, this is only a 4-inch rear grip, but if you have, you know, say a 7 or 10-inch rear grip, that's a pretty big rat tail file, and you're not going to get that same consistency across that whole 10 inches. So if you're going to make your own rods, if you're going to ream out your own cork, I suggest getting a reaming kit. What I do is I'll just, insert this into the chuck of my drill. And then I'll run it in reverse, and I'll have that running, and I'll just run my cork until I get that required diameter that I'm looking for. Now this is a pair of calipers. You don't need these. Me being critical, I like to use them because it gives me an idea. We saw earlier when I marked my measurements on my blank, you know, if I would turn these calipers on, I know that with this rear grip, for it to fit snugly on here, I got to get the inside diameter of this rear grip to, what's it's reading out here, to about almost just a little over 11 millimeters. So I know this insert, this inner diameter of this rear grip has to be at least 11 millimeters. So these come in handy. Like I said, you don't really need them. When you dry fit these, if you like it snug the way it is, you know, you can, that's fine. But I just like to have, if I only have 9 millimeters out here, I know I only have a little bit to go. I'll measure it, and then that's how I know how much more I have to remount. So definitely, this beats rat tail files any day of the week. It's a little dusty when you do it, so I suggest reaming this cork in a well-ventilated area. I like to do it outside. I'm not going to do it in this room because cork just goes everywhere. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm not going to show you the actual process. All I do is just run the drill in reverse and just slide my cork up. I might have to switch to a larger diameter reamer, which they give you in the kit, to get my desired diameter. But that's all there is to it. So that'll be it for today. The next video I'll upload will actually be gluing all the components onto the blank, and I'll show you how I do that.